Welcome to WLCR 91.1, Lake Country Radio. Everything is emergency, urgency over accuracy, freedom. So, tune your dials all the way left because, as you already know, 911 is greater than 411. 911 greater than 411. Do the math. We are 500 more. This is Larry Fells. In today's news, we have Kettle Moraine English teacher suspended in wake of YouTube video. Wales, a junior English teacher at Kettle Moraine High School, was recently suspended without pay following a particularly colorful creative writing class. Mr. Roger Hanrahan, 52, a beloved teacher at KMHS for almost 25 years, was apparently rankled after the 26,000th use of the wind whispered and/or the lazy river, and delivered a prepared lecture about avoiding tired descriptors and cliche phrases. Unfortunately for Mr. Hanrahan, the no phones policy at KMHS does not go into effect until the 2028 school year, as the current sophomore class successfully lobbied for the "if you started with a phone, you can finish with a phone" clause. And, predictably, his off-color lesson was recorded by a student who does not wish to remain nameless and specified that we call him Jarrett Hawks Hockmeyer. According to the lesson plan confiscated by the administrators but leaked by Hockmeyer, last Tuesday's class was titled Homeric Epithets and Shakespearean Profanity and Character Building and contained a perfectly clean and academically sound introduction to the Greek poet's use of hyphenates like swift-footed Achilles and rosy-fingered Dawn, along with the Elizabethan playwright's fondness for stacking musical plosives such as "Thou starveling elfskin neat's tongue, thou leathern jerkin, crystal button, knotty-pated, bolting hutch of beastliness, thou puke-stocking, caddis-gartered, clay-brained, obscene whoreson, greasy tallow-catch in a smooth-tongued Spanish pouch." Sadly for the fully accredited Hanrahan, second period intro to creative writing is neither the Globe Theater in 1600, nor is it Def Comedy Jam in 93, Hockmeyer's recording, which has since gone viral as an AI animated reel on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, began around the midway point of the class, shortly following a review of the students' nature story submissions. LC 911 commissioned a transcript of the recording, which is reproduced in full below. No! Rosie didn't finger Dawn, you idiot. It's a rosy-fingered Dawn. Homer is talking about the sunrise. You know what? Shut up, Hockmeyer. You don't just use fucking shit. Christ on a cross with his dick out. We are overusing them. There's a veritable shortage of fucks to give and shits to talk as you dullards keep tossing them off like you're on the goddamn homecoming float. Meanwhile, we've got dick-nose, cock-breath, grab-ass, and futt-bucker just sitting there on the shelf. You pedagogical suckholes don't listen to a goddamn thing I say, do you? We've been through the classical poets, we've been through Shakespeare, and half of the shit from that nonsense dick and fart jokes, or sexual innuendo bordering on porno. But no, you gender-fluid litterboxes just want a doom scroll to see whether Drewski beat Duke Dennis on cocksucking Candy Crush and barf tweet shit from your goon caves like Skibidi Riz, your boy glazing on that zesty guyet for I'm a smash. This Zin got me mewing like a Giga Chad, and her BF is a chopped NPC. Susses. Sus. Your whole worthless generation is sus. These stories you handed in are sus. The provenance of the writing is sus. They all sound like they were written by a shitheel robot drunk on moonshine that's actively stealing every mother-loving job out from under you little jumped-up hard-ons. We're sitting on over 5 years of written expression, all of which is in the pockets of your goofy-ass stovepipe jeans. The OED over there is big enough to kill a cat with. You got everything from fucking Aesop's Fables to Aesop Rock at the touch of a button, damn it all. But, you wanna. Look, I even made a $50 seeing-eye dog chart for you leg humpers to reference in. So help me God, Hockmeyer, if you don't sit your butter-fed bitch-ass wide body down, I'm gonna break this thing over your thick skull like stone cold, hitting McMahon with the bedpan at SummerSlam. Christ, you think I did 8 years at Swarthmore for this? The recording becomes largely inaudible at this point, with the exception of isolated and shouted fucks, fuckers, and fuckings. However, an LC 911 camera crew was on hand for Mr. Hanrahan's first day back following reinstatement. While the decorated educator remains unbowed and unchastened, he is clearly back to operating within the bounds of acceptable speech. Good morning, class. Welcome back to me. Hooray! I'd like to send a hearty go fuck yourself to whichever of you backbiting, four-flushing shitwad snitches ran to your penny ante parents and sang like a egg-sucking stool pigeon to get me suspended for a week. I enjoyed the vacation, even despite my wife thunder-cutting around like a squealing swamp sow and jackhammering me about tenure tracks and timeshares in Hilton Head. Like I want to spend 2 weeks of crotch sweat and butt funk in that highfalutin jerkwater with her college roommate and whatever world-class ass face is finger-blasting her dreams this month. Today we'll be looking at Ralph Waldo Emerson. Hand down, Hockmeyer, ass face is a proper noun. That's why it's capitalized, because I refused to learn that Fustelarian Fopdoodle's first name when he couldn't even get to third base if he hit a piss missile into the cheap seats. Editor's note, welcome back, Mr. Hanrahan. Copyright LC 911 Publications.
Function. The viral video of Roger Hanrahan's classroom meltdown at Kettle Moraine High School brings a harsh reality to the surface. A veteran educator pushed to the brink by the repetitive, hollow language of a digital-first generation. It wasn't just a teacher losing his temper. It was a collision between 5,000 years of literary tradition and the immediate disposable slang of the goon cave. Hanrahan, a man with 25 years of experience, found himself standing in the ruins of a creative writing class, desperately trying to explain why Homer's rosy-fingered dawn matters more than Skibidi Riz. It's a moment that feels both absurd and deeply symptomatic of a widening gap in how we value language.
It's definitely a breaking point, and while the delivery was explosive, the underlying frustration is grounded in a real pedagogical crisis. When you look at the transcript of that class, Hanrahan isn't just yelling about swearing, he's attacking the laziness of modern description. He's specifically incensed by the overuse of cliches like the wind whispered or the lazy river. Those are what we call dead metaphors. They've lost their evocative power through sheer repetition. His pivot to Homeric epithets and Shakespearean profanity was a move to show students that language, even when it's aggressive or coarse, should be deliberate and structurally sound. A Homeric epithet like swift-footed Achilles isn't just a nickname. As scholars often note, these phrases served a metrical function in dactylic hexameter, but they also fixed a character's essence in the listener's mind.
But isn't there a massive irony in a teacher screaming at students for overusing fuck and shit while he simultaneously offers them a veritable shortage of more creative insults? He's essentially telling them that if they're going to be profane, they should at least be artistic about it. It's almost as if he's arguing that the quality of the beastliness matters more than the social etiquette of the classroom.
That's exactly the tension. He's trying to bridge the gap between high art and the gutter, which is actually a very Shakespearean tradition. If you look at the lines he quoted from Henry IV, Part 1, calling someone a starveling, elf-skin, neat's tongue, Shakespeare was using what linguists call musical plosives. These are hard sounds that create a rhythmic, percussive effect. Hanrahan is trying to teach these kids that even a puke stocking or a tallow catch has more linguistic weight than a generic four-letter word. He's frustrated because his students are using language like a blunt instrument, whereas the writers he admires treated it like a surgical tool, or at the very least, a very well-crafted hammer.
There's a clear generational clash here. He calls them gender-fluid litter boxes and butter-fed bitch asses, which, while undeniably colorful, seem to ignore the fact that every generation invents its own code. The slang he's mocking, mewing, gigachad, NPC, is essentially the epithet system of the TikTok era. It's shorthand that signifies belonging to a specific subculture. Is it possible he's just an old guard refusing to see that language is evolving away from the OED and towards something more fluid and algorithmically driven?
It's a fair challenge. Language is always in flux. However, the difference Hanrahan is highlighting is the provenance of the writing. He mentions that their stories sound like they were written by a shit-heel robot drunk on moonshine. He's hitting on a massive anxiety in modern education, the rise of generative AI. When a student uses skibidi-riz in a story, they're participating in a living, evolving slang. But when they submit a nature story that says, "the wind whispered," they might be relying on a predictive text model that's just regurgitating the most statistically likely phrase. That's the sus part. He's not just mad about the words, he's mad about the lack of human intentionality behind them.
That intentionality is what he seems to find in the Elizabethan fondness for insults. But let's be honest, Hanrahan's lesson plan was a minefield. Comparing a creative writing class to the Globe Theatre in 1600 or Def Comedy Jam in 93 is a wild stretch. One is the pinnacle of Western literature, and the other is a high-octane stand-up showcase. By blending them, he's trying to make a point that profanity is a legitimate tool for character building. Is there actually an academic precedent for using shock and profanity as a teaching method in creative writing?
There is, actually. Progressive pedagogy often explores authentic voice. If you want a student to write a convincing character, that character cannot speak like a textbook. They have to speak like a person. Many writers, from Charles Dickens with his London street cant to Mark Twain's regional dialects in Huckleberry Finn, used low language to achieve high realism. Hanrahan is trying to show that dick and fart jokes in Shakespeare aren't just there for the cheap seats. They define the social status, the mood, and the raw humanity of the characters. The problem is that Hanrahan is using that same low language against his students. He's trying to use the weapon he's supposed to be teaching them how to handle.
And the fallout was inevitable. Jared Hawks Hockmeyer, who clearly has a flair for the dramatic himself, records the whole thing. The no phones policy doesn't kick in until 2028 because the current sophomores successfully lobbied for a grandfather clause. It's a perfect storm. You have a teacher who thinks he's stone-cold Steve Austin hitting McMahon with a bedpan, and a student body that is essentially a mobile surveillance unit. Hanrahan is lamenting 5,000 years of written expression being ignored while it's literally sitting in the pockets of their stovepipe jeans.
The irony of the stovepipe jeans comment is that he's using an outdated fashion reference to criticize their worthless generation. It shows his own disconnect. But his point about the OED being big enough to kill a cat with is crucial. He's pointing to the sheer volume of available human expression that is being bypassed for the sake of the doom scroll. When he mentions Aesop's fables to Aesop rock, he's trying to show a continuum of storytelling. Aesop Rock is a modern rapper known for having one of the largest vocabularies in hip-hop. Hanrahan is telling them, look, you can be modern, you can be edgy, you can be street, but you have to be articulate.
Even after his suspension, he comes back and doubles down. He calls his wife a thunder-cunting swamp-so and dismisses her concerns about tenure tracks. He's completely unbowed. He even treats assface as a proper noun in a discussion about Ralph Waldo Emerson. Is there any pedagogical value left once a teacher has crossed the line into personal, vitriolic insults against the students and their families?
It's hard to argue for the pedagogical value of calling students suckholes or snitches. At that point, the teacher-student contract is fundamentally broken. However, from a purely linguistic perspective, he is performing the very thing he's teaching. He's using fustelarian fopdoodle, which is a wonderful bit of archaic slang meaning a low, stinking fellow, to demonstrate that he has a deeper well to draw from than they do. He's playing a character. He's become the very thing he's teaching, a character built through Homeric epithets and Shakespearean profanity. He's a walking, breathing lesson in the power of a specific, aggressive vocabulary to command attention, even if it's the wrong kind of attention.
It feels like a tragedy of missed connections. He's a man who clearly loves the English language, who did 8 years at Swarthmore for the privilege of teaching it, but he's found himself in an environment where the currency of language has been devalued. To him, the lazy river is an insult to the craft. To the students, it's just a sentence in a homework assignment they probably did while watching a split-screen video of someone playing Minecraft.
Exactly. The conflict isn't just about swearing. It's about the friction of language. Real writing requires friction, finding the exact right word that resists being easy or cliché. Slang like skibidi is the ultimate frictionless language. It's a placeholder. It means whatever the vibe requires it to mean at that moment. Hanrahan is a man of twists and turns, much like Odysseus, but his battlefield is a classroom in Wales, Wisconsin. He's fighting a war against the smooth-tongued ease of the digital age.
There's also the cultural impact of this becoming a viral AI-animated reel. The very thing he hates, AI and social media, is the only reason we're talking about him. His rant about shit-heel robots has been processed by a robot to make him look like a cartoon character for the entertainment of the same dullards he was yelling at. The cycle is complete. The medium has swallowed the message.
And that's the most sus part of all. If we lose the ability to distinguish between a prepared lecture on the history of profanity and a viral freakout video, then the nuances of Hanrahan's lesson, the musical plosives, the hyphenated epithets, they all get flattened. We lose the context of the 26,000th use of the wind whispered. We just see a 52-year-old man yelling, but if you look closer, you see a teacher trying to save his students from a future where they have everything at the touch of a button, but nothing original to say.
It's a stark reminder that language is a muscle, and if you only ever use the lazy river or generic expletives, that muscle atrophies. Hanrahan's methods were extreme, and his reinstatement is a minor miracle given the current climate of school board sensitivity. But he's forced a conversation about what creative writing actually looks like in 2024. Is it a reflection of 5,000 years of history, or is it just glazing on that zesty jot?
He ends that first day back by pivoting to Emerson, who famously said, "Every spirit builds itself a house, and beyond its house a world, and beyond its world a heaven." Hanrahan would probably argue that his students are building houses out of cardboard and social media barf tweets. He wants them to build something that lasts, even if he has to burn the classroom down to show them the foundation. The legacy of this meltdown might actually be that it makes a few students realize that words have weight, and that if you don't choose them carefully, someone like Mr. Hanrahan might just break a metaphorical bedpan over your head.
It's a chaotic, profanity-laced plea for excellence. Whether he's a hero or a pedagogical suckhole probably depends on whether you value the rules of the hallway or the power of the page. But one thing is for certain, nobody in that second period intro to creative writing class is going to use the phrase "the wind whispered" ever again without looking over their shoulder.
And if that's the only outcome, then maybe, in some twisted Shakespearean way, Mr. Hanrahan actually won.
A fascinating look at the limits of patience and the power of the word. If you found this discussion about the evolution of language and the chaos of the modern classroom compelling, consider sharing it with a friend who appreciates a good Shakespearean insult.